Testing. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Harsimran Kaur, and I'm the legal director of the Sikh Coalition, an advocacy organization that works to protect the basic rights of Sikhs and Americans of all faiths across the country. In particular, we work to ensure that Sikhs may practice their faith freely and fearlessly wherever they live. We are here today to support Mr. Inderjeet Singh Mukker and his family. As you all know, Mr. Mukker was brutally beaten a week ago after being called bin Laden, terrorist, and other slurs. In fact, we are standing at the spot where his attackers' bigoted taunts first began. Yesterday, Mr. Mukker and the Sikh Coalition's legal team met with DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin and had an in-depth discussion about all of the facts underlying what we believed were the attackers' biased motivation. We are pleased to share that the state's attorney's office subsequently reviewed all of the evidence in the case and decided to file a hate crime charge against Mr. Mukker's attacker. Sat Sri Akal. Sat Sri Akal. Joining us to share more information about the pandemic of hate violence against the Sikh American community and why it is so important to charge hate crimes appropriately is Narinder Singh, a co-founder of the Sikh Coalition and chair of the organization's board of trustees.
Thank you, everyone, for gathering here today. I spoke at an event like this shortly after a hardworking Sikh owner, Balbir Singh Sodhi, became the first person after 9/11 to be killed in a hate crime. In fact, his shooting occurred exactly 14 years ago today. I can't help but remember him here as we gather in Darien, Illinois. Mr. Sodhi was a man who immigrated to this country, like so many others, to pursue the American dream. He had just returned from donating to the Red Cross 9/11 Relief Fund and buying an American flag to put it at his Chevron station that he'd saved for years to buy. His assailant, his killer, proclaimed himself a patriot. 3 years ago, it was Wade Michael Page who walked into a Sikh house of worship and murdered half a dozen worshipers. 3 months ago, it was the tragedy of Charleston. Now, nearly every week, it's a vandalization of a black church, a mosque, a synagogue, or a Sikh gurdwara. As members of Sikhism, the fifth largest religion in the world, we believe in remembering the divine in our thoughts and actions, living an honest life, and sharing with and caring for our fellow man. But this does not matter to the perpetrators of these hate crimes. For them, this is not a case of mistaken identity. As Americans, we face a problem of hatred in our great nation. In our struggle to find ourselves, too often we cast those different from us as the other because they do not share our race, our faith, our beliefs, our sexual orientation, or lifestyle. This bias sets the foundation for extremists and those that are impressionable or unbalanced to feed off of a culture of hate. And then yet we are still shocked when these vicious hate crimes occur. Today we will hear from a man who is the victim of such hate. Inderjeet Singh Mukker went to buy groceries and instead found a fellow American who thought of him as bin Laden, a terrorist, someone who shouldn't be in this country, and then violently attacked him because of this belief. In this story, though, we see a proactive police force and a police chief, Ernest Brown, who acted quickly to identify what had happened, who had done this, and very importantly, what motivated this action, the hate that motivated it. And today, now we are pleased to recognize that the state's attorney, Robert Berlin, has appropriately charged the perpetrator with a hate crime. Identifying this assault as a hate crime is not about the potential length of punishment. In fact, in this case, that will not vary. but it will lead to treatment for the perpetrator to address his underlying motivation for committing the crime, the hate that inspired it. The designation of this act as a hate crime is about acknowledging the problem that hate-based violence creates in our society. It's about showing that our government is committed to taking on this hate with purpose and conviction. Hate-based crimes inflict terror on entire communities. They make honest men and women like Mr. Mukker concerned about shopping for groceries, going to work, or taking their child to school. Hate-based crimes attack the very essence of the American dream. We need our government to stand with us and send a clear message that this kind of hate will not be tolerated. Standing with us is Ernest Brown, the police chief who went beyond his job description to ensure his community knew that hate would not be tolerated. Standing with us is Robert Berlin, the DuPage County State's attorney, who through hearing more about his case, changed his mind and took the right action of classifying it as a hate crime. How seldom do we see our politicians take new information and use it to change their course? Standing with us is all of you and over 10,000 who within all minutes of the crime happening voiced their support for Mr. Mukker's attack and claimed solidarity with him. Too often when we see horrific crimes, we think we need to be tougher on crime, but that's only dealing with the symptoms. We need to be tougher on the hate that is underlying this cause. And it must come from our political leaders, from the media, and from one another. We need to condemn this hate and open our hearts to the differences that make us all so special. Today, we take the most basic of first steps simply by acknowledging what occurred against Mr. Mukker for what it is, a hate crime. Today, we celebrate the strength and the compassion of Mr. Mukker and his family. Today, Mr. Mukker, we are standing with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narinder. Next, Mr. Inderjeet Singh Mukker will share more about himself and his feelings a week after his attack.
Thank you. My name is Inderjeet Singh Mukker. Thank you for coming here today. I have received so many wonderful messages of hope and kindness from all over the world. Your support means so much to me and my family. This has been a difficult week. Last Tuesday, I was on my way to the grocery store when just down this street, I was viciously attacked. No Sikh, no American should ever fear a simple trip to the grocery store. I was attacked because of my brown skin, turban, and a beard. I was assaulted in my car because I am a Sikh. My attacker saw me driving on this road, and instead of seeing my turban and beard for what they are, article of my faith that stand for the value like equality, self-services, and faith in God, he twisted them into symbol of hate. He called me Bin Laden. He told me go back to my country. This is my country. This is my home. I am an American, and no American should be judged or attacked because of the color of their skin and their religion. This is why I am grateful that the DuPage County prosecutor has filed hate crime charges against my attacker. I thank Mr. Robert Berlin and his office for understanding that this was much more than an assault or a case of road rage. This was a hate crime. I was attacked because of my color of my skin and my article of faith. Hate crimes don't just impact individuals, they terrorize entire communities. This hate crime was an assault on every American community, from Charleston, South Carolina to Old Oak Creek, Wisconsin, that has faced discrimination and violence because of their skin color, what they believe, and who they love. This is wrong. We cannot let this continue. Prejudice and bigotry must not divide us. We are all human beings. We all have dreams, and we all have families. Let me tell you about my dream and my family. I came to America 27 years ago with a graduate degree in agronomy. I raised a beautiful family in Darien. There is my amazing wife, Kushdeep, who worked as a nurse, and my daughter, Baljot, who is following the footsteps of her mother and becoming a nurse, and my son, Kanwar, a college student at University of Illinois. I am a proud husband and a father and want my family to be free in who they are and what they believe, and most importantly, to be safe. For the last 25 years, I have worked as a cab driver and have met many wonderful Americans from all walk of my life. But I also know that my American Sikh community continues to face hate and violence become in our religious appearances. I ask DuPage County, I ask our elected official, I ask all of you here today to continue to stand up against racism and hate. When bigotry and violence infect our community, we must always condemn it, not sweep under the rug. We must always stand up and protect the rights of the vulnerables. I know there is much more to work to be done. As we have seen this week, hate and bigotry are alive and well in America, but so are love, compassion, and kindness, which are weapons far more powerful than any act of hate. Today, in memory of Balbir Singh Sodhi, a Sikh American who on this day 14 years ago was killed in a brutal hate crime, I ask that you join me in my urgent request to eradicate hate in America once and for all. Thank you.
We are supposed to be joined by Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III. Is he here yet? I understand he was. Reverend Moss. Reverend Moss is an accomplished author, speaker, and activist. He is the senior pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. Thank you so much for coming.
My name is Reverend Otis Moss III. I am senior pastor at Trinity United Church of Christ. It was a great individual who stated that if the mind is polluted, the body is polluted, and also the tongue as well. Hate is a toxic virus that infects and affects the soul and very fabric of democracy. It is the call of people of faith and moral conscience to recognize the inescapable fabric, interconnected destiny we all share together. I stand as a person of African descent, as a person connected to the Black church, who recognizes that we are part of an inescapable fabric, that we are all tied together. I'm here to take on hate, knowing that hate disrupts the very fabric of our democracy, disrupts our civility, and causes the heart of God to weep. I stand with you, and a community of over 7,000 on the south side of Chicago stand with the Sikh community. We are here to take on hate. We are your brothers. We are your sisters. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Moss. Is Marty Castro here? We were supposed to be joined by Marty Castro, chair of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. I believe he's running a little late, so we'll move forward. Misguided acts of violence against minority communities of any faith or background do not happen in a vacuum. The underlying causes of hate violence are complex, and there is still a tremendous amount of work to be done to permanently change misperceptions of vulnerable communities. Nonetheless, one concrete step is identifying bias-motivated crimes as hate crimes and charging them and prosecuting them as such. It is so important that our government publicly identify and condemn hate crimes. Doing so sends a clear message that our society will not tolerate bigotry. I want to close by thanking DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin for his careful attention to the case and his commitment to eradicating intolerance by filing a hate crime charge against Mr. Mukker's attacker. I want to thank all of the community members here, all of you here who stand here today, for supporting Mr. Mukker and his family and for taking a stand against hate. We can open things up for questions. Yes. Yes. Mr. Mukker is not taking any press questions beyond his statement, but I can address that. We asked for a meeting with Mr. Berlin, and his office spent 2 hours with us yesterday, roughly. It appeared that their investigation was incomplete. They did not have all the facts in front of them. We were able to spend time with him. You know, hate crimes don't happen in a vacuum. We were able to provide context, connect some of the dots, and also provide additional evidence that his attorneys did not appear to have considered or have seen yet, including Mr. Mukker providing a full statement in person to them. And based on that evidence, they felt confident that there was evidence supporting a hate crime charge. Yes, and that's why our community is here today, to ensure that I think gaps like that don't happen in the future. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. Sure. Well, the law here in Illinois requires that a hate crime, somebody convicted of a hate crime, do 200 hours of community service in the county where the hate crime occurred. Beyond that, we have a lot of leverage to ask the judge for creative types of sentencing that specifically address the biased nature of the crime. That could be asking him to write an essay about who Sikhs are and the civil rights challenges of Sikhs. It could be asking that he attend anger management or other kinds of counseling. It could be that he writes a letter of apology to Mr. Mukker, or formally apologizes in person. When that time in the legal process comes, we will work with Mr. Mukker to make sure that he asks for appropriate sentencing. Absolutely. So the question was, so that everyone can hear, are there opportunities to provide education for the folks in DuPage County coming out of this? The federal government actually, as a result of the Oak Creek shooting in Wisconsin, where Sikhs were killed at a Sikh Gurdwara, the federal government actually created a training about who Sikhs are and the civil rights challenges of Sikhs that is specifically geared towards law enforcement and government officials. So the police chief of Darien has actually asked for that training for his officers, and we are going to ask that Robert Berlin also have his office undergo that training as well, so that they have a greater understanding if another hate crime charge were to happen again against a Sikh here.
Congressman for our district and Darien mayor both have expressed support and concern. Yesterday evening I met rather late Mr. Mukker, and I sent an email to both of them, and I have received replies from them that they support.
Thank you. He was saying that the local congressman and Bill Foster, as well as Kathy, the mayor of Darien, have expressed their support, and we've received a lot of support here from the local community and local Darien officials, which we greatly appreciate. Yes. The question was, would we have preferred if he would have been charged as an adult as compared to as a juvenile? You know, here the law just changed last year. Everyone under 18 must be charged as a juvenile, so we didn't really have a lot of input into that. But we trust right now that Mr. Berlin understands the situation and the context of this hate crime, and that his office will be moving forward appropriately, and we'll continue to work with Mr. Mukker to ensure that the process, that he achieves justice through the process.
Marty Castro is here.
We are joined by Marty Castro, chair of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights is an independent, bipartisan federal agency that advances civil rights law and policy through objective and comprehensive investigation, research, and analysis. Thank you, Mr. Castro.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here to show the community's spirit and unity. It's a shame that we come together like this only when there are tragedies and hateful acts and terrible and despicable things, but we have to come together like this because this is the only way that we will show that when you injure one individual, you injure the community. When you hate a person because of where they come from, what they look like, or who you think they are, you're injuring the nation. And we at the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights are committed to making this community, this nation, as hate-free and bias-free as possible. When President Obama appointed me to this position 4.5 years ago, I knew that we would see many challenges nationally, and we have. The Commission issued a report recently on the conditions of Arab and Muslim Americans and their civil rights, and we put some special emphasis on the rights of individuals in the Sikh community, whether it's their desire to serve our nation as Americans, yet they're being denied because of their articles of faith, whether it's children being bullied in the community, or whether it's situations like this one. They must stop. We're pleased to see that the local prosecutors are going to look into this, but if they don't, I can assure you that I will request that the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights ask the Justice Department to conduct a federal probe. I shared this information about this heinous act with the commissioners at our hearing on September 11th, last Friday in Washington. After our moment of silence for September 11th, we talked about the tragedy that continues in communities such as the Sikh community, bearing the brunt of these actions, a peaceful and loving community that is being targeted because of their faith. And prosecution and litigation is important, but the only way we're going to overcome these acts of hate is for understanding and education, for love. Yes, we must prosecute, but we must learn not only to tolerate, we must learn to celebrate our diversity. We must learn that each and every one of us is part of the beautiful fabric of humanity. And when you injure one part of that fabric, you injure us all. So on behalf of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, I'm here to tell you that we stand in unity with you, and we stand in solidarity to take whatever action necessary should the local authorities not do what they're supposed to do. Thank you.
Sir, she has a question.
Oh. Could you repeat the question? I'm not, but I think the organizers here have some information on that.
A request was made. We understand that that the Justice Department does not prosecute juveniles with hate crime charges, so we understand that they're not able to intervene, which is why we are thankful that Mr. Berlin's office took the right steps here. Other questions? Yes. Have we heard from the juvenile's family? No, we have not. We don't even know his identity. It's a closed process. Yes. We're not making Mr. Mukker available for additional comment, just to protect the prosecution and ensure that it moves forward. So we can't. I know that his feelings are complex. It's just been a week out, and he's still physically healing and emotionally healing. But it's the support of the community like this that really helps to buoy his spirits. It is a difficult time for him. Sure. Gunwar, do you want to speak? The question is what is the impact that this crime has had on Mr. Mukker's family?
I mean, the impact is pretty big because, I mean, my father, he's been working for us really hard, and seeing this happening to my own father and hearing from like other people of the past crimes that's been happening was pretty shocking. And that too in Darien, this area, it's really peaceful. I mean, I walk around this area. This is my home. I mean, it's really senseless that this actually occurred here, and it's pretty difficult that this actually occurred. My name is Kanwar Singh Mukker. Kanwar. Last name Mukker. Mukker. Yes.
The question was, does he live in Darien?
Yeah. Yeah. The question was that do I live in Darien? And yeah, I do. I mean, all I could say to him is that respect your elders and do not. There's no point in hating.
We're going to end the press conference now, but family members will be available to speak to the press right now. So thank you, everyone, so much for coming and for expressing your support today.